You've probably heard a lot of older people say, "Oh, I think that my friends and we should all buy some property and build 6 houses with a communal kitchen and hire a PSW to look after us when we need it." Well, people start thinking about that and talking about it too late. Like, you can't suddenly buy property at 75 and think you're going to build and get other people to join you and plan ahead.
Valerie Powell, thank you for joining me on this episode. And I'd like to start by you telling me a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you're here for.
Oh, I thought I was just talking age friendly. Um, I have a varied career. I'm a graduate of the Ontario College of Art and was a practicing artist and went back and did a research master's in aging at University of Guelph, and have been executive director with the Alzheimer's Society, and then a psychogeriatric resource consultant for Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care in this LHIN for maybe 15 years, and then managed the behavioral support program for this region before retiring because my husband had a serious stroke. So I've been full-time caregiver for 10 years and concentrating on working in the community. I've also people might recognize my name as the Green Party candidate federally and provincially a number of times.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. And we're talking today because of Age Friendly Orillia, right? So,
Yes.
how did this organization come about? Is it even an organization? I'm not entirely sure because it's relatively new, right?
I was trying to think of when we started and I couldn't think. Um, Age-friendly communities or cities, uh, that movement started, I think, 2007, quite a while ago, while I was working and going to conferences and really getting excited about the idea of a general awareness and advocacy for aging, because that was my field.
Mhm.
Um, and then in Orillia, we used to have the Sunshine Initiatives, which were the mayor, Steve Clark, had these events where any citizen could come forward with what they thought would make Orillia a better, happier place to live. And I kept putting forward age-friendly, um, community, and it took me about 3 years before I got support, and the initial support led to us forming a volunteer group, which became more formalized over the years, into a full-fledged committee with executive. Still no money, or status, just volunteers. And then we partnered with the city and applied for funding through one of the Ontario, funding ministries. I can't remember which ministry of they have a senior secretariat and different ministries with funding, and applied for funding to hire a consultant, unfortunately, in the middle of COVID,
Wow.
to assess like, do a needs assessment, an official one in the city of Orillia, and come up with a community action plan, a 5-year plan. We achieved that. We're in the middle of it, and we're implementing the 27 actions. So, no money, no staff, but we're achieving quite a bit.
So, tell me about these actions. What is the goal of the Age Friendly Orillia?
Oh, gee, I've been doing it so long, I don't even know if I can. The World Health Organization defined age friendly with 8 domains that I I have somewhere on paper, but basically they are built structures, there's housing, transportation, social environment integration, um, being involved, volunteering in government. There are 8 specifically defined domains, and we try to work on the ones that we feel we can accomplish. If you're talking about buildings or parks or roads or buses, it's really hard to have any control over the built environment. That's the city, the province, whatever. And we advocate and have advocated quite successfully in those areas, but we've decided that our focus will be social isolation, especially during COVID. That seemed to be so important to make sure that older adults, everybody, but our focus was older adults, don't become isolated because that can lead to depression, physical issues, apathy. And so that's our focus with our particular group. But it doesn't mean we ignore all the other domains. We're always advocating for all of them.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's vitally important, especially during COVID, where everybody was feeling that pressure of isolation and having to figure out a way to not be alone, how to be together but still separated, right? And I remember how hard it was specifically for seniors that used to live in homes and stuff like that, because as soon as one person got COVID, like the entire building had to be quarantined, and like, all these things were happening that made it really difficult for families to visit, mainly very difficult for people to just interact with others, right?
Yes. Yeah, and
So yeah,
social engagement is so important at any age, but I think even more important as we get older. Maybe we don't have that work environment with our colleagues, family members, sometimes move to other cities and countries, and it takes a bit of effort and support from the community to provide ways that people can connect.
yeah, for sure. So what would you suggest a senior that may be hearing this as an example? What would you suggest they do if they are feeling isolated or they're feeling like they would like more interaction, uh, just around here?
That is a good question. We talk about that and try to come up with, I won't say solutions, but things that we can do, but that also things that we can promote that people will accept as something they want to do. So when I talk about the domains, housing, which is a domain that is an official age-friendly domain, that really influences how well people connect or don't connect. Um, where people live, accessibility to housing, the type of housing, um, and we start with a basic focus, and oh my god, and then you start realizing all the groups and government things and policies that affect it. So for instance, I've been promoting for years the home share model with the university to connect students living with older adults. I think there's like 5 million empty bedrooms in Canada because a lot of older adults still have the family home with bedrooms that sit empty 90% of the time.
Right.
But there's nowhere for them to move within their neighborhood, even though they'd like to downsize. So they stay in a larger home and maybe they can't maintain it. Maybe they're alone or need help. And then there are students looking for accommodation and they can't find anywhere affordable to live. And so the home share program has been successful across Canada for decades. And I'm pleased to see that it's now coming to Orillia. It'll be a slow rollout, but it'll be a good program, and I'm hoping everybody can learn about that more as it gets going with both Georgian and Lakehead. Um, there's a a program called NORCs, which is Naturally Occurring Retirement Communities. And this is where, in a condo or a neighborhood, if there are a lot of older adults, and I'm saying older, I say seniors, but the United Nations has decided that that's an ageist term and that we should be using older adults. Um, it, Language takes a long time to change, so we still say seniors a lot, but we try to say older adults. Um, but in with NORCs, now you can apply for some government funding to hire a coordinator to actually bring this naturally occurring retirement community together, perhaps have a location where community paramedics can come in to do basic, vital blood work,
Checkups and whatnot.
monitoring. People can go for whatever non-emergency care on a regular basis. Um, that coordinator can help build trust and start some social activities. Uh, it The sort of things that used to happen naturally within small towns or churches, or now we kind of need to help organize those things. So there's lots of housing issues um, that we advocate for when we can. Um, we partner with the city wherever possible, and they have a program called Seniors at Play, which which provides a social uh, opportunity for people to go. They have a calendar, it's daily. You can go to the Rotary place and take part. And the people who go there can help decide what programs they want. So I think Mexican trained dominoes is really popular at the moment. So I think there's a whole day devoted to going and doing that, which is just a way to get together. And they have
Right.
other social events. So there are a million opportunities, and Information Aurelia now is really coming on board because there's a lot of research right now showing that volunteerism with older adults was a really important part of their social life, their self worth, because they're giving to their community, um, and just a routine, having something you have to get up and go to because it's a plan, whether you're volunteering at the hospital or an event, it gets you going. And that dropped off during COVID and hasn't fully returned. And now one of our sub themes for our Aging Well event is volunteerism, to address loneliness and isolation. People have forgotten how to get out. I don't. I think they've gone out of the habit, but there's still that security thing with viruses and COVID because it's still out there rampant.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you never know what new diseases come up, and so it is something that people are trying to be careful about as much as you can, right? But you still
Yes,
need to be able to understand that we are social animals. Like, we need to be out and be engaging and be talking to people in order for us to, for our minds, for our mental health and everything to be the best shape it can be, right?
yes.
Absolutely.
As I talk about all these activities, Age Friendly Aurelia doesn't do any of them. We don't have any staff or money. And so we're actually just an umbrella trying to network, advocate, promote, educate, um, that these activities happen. And many of them were there long before Age Friendly, but trying to get people to network, work together, and build on what was already in the community and add more is where we feel we can make improvements. So we can't take credit for the third age learning program that Lakehead provides, which is a wonderful, wonderful 6-week courses on various themes and topics where they bring in lecturers, researchers, or pundits, whatever, people who can really speak. Um, there are a lot of good St. Andrew's Church has a seniors program on Thursdays. A lot of these programs were already there, but we'd like to make help people know that they're there and the importance of belonging.
Well, absolutely, because that's one of the big things that I know I've noticed in just my field of view in general, because my field, I'm a marketer by trade, like that's what I do on my day job. But it's a very common thing where there's a lot of information out there, right? There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of, even through the Villager magazine, there's a lot of events happening, right? That it's easy to miss because there's just so much activity. There's so many things that it'd be great for to have an organizing or somebody that can organize all of this information into one place where you can just go, and this is where you can find the information related to what you're interested in, right? Whether it's marketing, whether it's the events that are happening this month, or whether it's age friendly events or age friendly activities to do. It's a great idea to have an organization that is like, here is what's happening for the people that want to take part of this. I think it's wonderful.
It's challenging. There's no, like, daily paper with community events. You're all over social media trying to figure out who's looking at what, whether it's Facebook posting events. Information Orillia is trying to organize some information on events, but I think it's always been challenging, and I'm thinking maybe more so because in this society, we're definitely in silos. Um, with all the algorithms, whatever you're interested in, you don't see anything else. So some people who've never started going down the road of age friendly isn't even aware that people over 60, 65 exist.
It's a great topic, and I don't know if I want to get too down the rabbit hole for this, but I have a lot to say about that specific thing that you just mentioned about how we live in silos nowadays. Like that is a great um, way to think about it, because you're exactly right. The algorithms nowadays for Facebook and social media and even Google search and all that kind of stuff, they're tailored to give you exactly what you're looking for, exactly what you're interested in. So if you're only interested in cars, as an example, you're only going to get stuff about cars. You're not going to get stuff about other things, right? So
Yeah,
it's really easy to stay just in this lane where you have almost like blinders on, where the algorithm is just going to throw things at you, and it's always going to be, oh, there's a new car or there's a new something, but it's never going to tell you, hey, if you just look to your left a little, you're gonna find that a bicycle might, like, there's a
yeah.
group that is just walking every day, that is going on a bicycle, that you might be interested in as well, or something that can get you out of your comfort zone, if you will. So I
So
find that a really
speaking
interesting.
of walking, yeah, and we cover everything because everything is interconnected. There could be a great program, but if you can't get to it, then it doesn't matter. And one interesting thing that happened I don't know if it was during COVID, it might have been before. Innisfil got rid of the public bus system. It was too expensive. And they just contracted Uber. But what happened, which they hadn't an unintended consequence, was all their seniors programs were suddenly full and overflowing because an older person, let's say in the winter, who couldn't walk to a bus stop or stand and wait, suddenly could stand in their front window or porch until the Uber arrived, the car, and get in and get taken right to the door of where they were going. And that wasn't the plan, but they realized then they had to increase all their seniors programming to accommodate the fact that people could get there. So that's the sort of thing we pay attention to and try to change where we can. We haven't made a lot of huge inroads in Orillia, but some of our age-friendly people rode the buses and took notes and then wrote a report to the transit committee when they were asking for input, and they did make some changes based on our input. So then what started me down thinking this is you talked about walking, and one of the biggest, comments that we had when we did our needs assessment was people find it not safe to walk in Aurelia, older people. And I say older adults, but if something's good for an 80-year-old, it's also good for an 8-year-old. Like,
Absolutely.
and before Age Friendly existed, the public health unit, they did a lot of advocacy and awareness on active aging and a program they called 8 to 80. So we're kind of a follow-up for working in general. The main reason Age Friendly is applied to seniors or older adults is because that's where all the grants come from. So we're we're actually more intergenerational, but in order to get any grants for any programs, it tends to be for older adults. But, one of the biggest complaints was the cracks, the uneven sidewalks, so people with mobility issues or unsteady or with a stroller or a wheelchair had trouble with sidewalks, with curbs, um, no shade in places, nowhere to sit. If you're going for a walk, there's nowhere to rest. And so I did a little research, and in some communities, especially in Ireland, which is a leader in age friendly, they do walkability surveys of the neighborhoods with volunteers, and they take notes and they submit those to their local municipality, as to how safe it is to walk, whether there's lighting like downtown, like different. An example in Aurelia, my husband, he can't walk very far, so when we do a distance, he uses a wheelchair. We lived very close to the library and the opera house, 2 blocks. I couldn't get him across the street at West and Coldwater because the pedestrian light is on for 4 seconds in any
Really?
direction. You have to be an Olympic sprinter to cross at that intersection. And those sorts of things don't ever get addressed. Like I've complained, I've suggested, but never maybe to the right person. So when we do our walkability study, I'm going to make sure that's in a report that goes to whoever at the city is going to look at it. The good thing is when I talk to the city about it, they really love the idea and want to be part of it. So it isn't always adversarial. Like, sometimes you think, "Oh, we're gonna complain to the city, we're going to, we need this, we need that." They also need to know how to structure what they do and to get funding and buy-in. So, we're now going to launch, hopefully this fall, volunteers doing walkability studies. We'll start on a small scale with the not just the approval of the city, but with their assistance in getting it going. So we're all over the map. We take whatever opportunity comes to us that we can do with no money and no staff.
That makes a lot of sense, though. And it's really important to make sure, I guess, people do understand that there's a lot of within government or local government, if you will. I feel like there's usually a lot more red tape that people realize where people are interested in wanting to help and make change and do things like that, right? That are currently in the, local government positions. But it takes time. It takes a lot of convincing, or it takes a lot of departments to kind of accept or approve the process before it actually gets moved on anything. So even if it's a good idea, it may take longer than you think,
And
right?
we do have a city councilor on our committee. Janet Lindernford sits on our age friendly committee. So that's great because she can help us if we wanna do something, she can find the route to best do it within the city for us and advocate within the city.
Yeah. But it's amazing that just having the organization, having a volunteers that actually can tell you, what could be worked on or what could be improved on, and have multiple pieces of information or multiple people that have done, let's say, the walkability studies, if you guys go ahead and start doing that, and is like, look, it's not just one person. It's now, this is an ongoing issue. This is something that we can move on. So that's the only way that people are going to know what to move on, right? It may take a while, but if it doesn't get addressed, it's mainly because there's not enough information, or there's not enough people actually advocating for it. So yeah, I think it's wonderful that that's happening.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about the Aging Well Expo yet that's coming up at Lakehead. That was one of our, um, 10 initiatives through our community action plan, one of our 27, sorry, initiatives. And Lakehead, uh, we've also been trying to encourage them become an official age-friendly university. There are 10 official principles that you're supposed to meet, but one of them was also to hold an annual Aging Well fair or expo, and Lakehead has been great and applied for funding and received it to host one, which is coming up very soon, October the 16th, and there was much discussion as to who the audience is, because aging doesn't suddenly start at 65.
Right.
And there are many people. I mean, if you go to Shoppers at, what is it, 55 and you're a senior, and in some countries, seniors, the official age is 60 for research, not 65. It makes it difficult to compare. In Canada, if you're First Nations, you're considered senior at 60 because of the diabetes and health related issues. So, so services kick in 5 years earlier, and that may have changed. I've been retired for a few years, but that's the way it always was. And then now at 55, many people are retiring or have health issues. So we decided to aim our aging well at not looking at, oh, how do we help a frail senior get to the hospital or get transportation? So if somebody is 55 looking at retiring in a few years, or 60 or 65 and super healthy, and we actually um, used to try to find words for different ages, like if somebody's old or frail or active. And the common one that's being used for quite a few years now is to not discuss the specific age of someone, but their social, mental, and physical ability. And we sort of pare that down in that you're in the go-go stage, which could last till 90. You're in the slow go stage, and then you're in the no-go stage. So, at whatever age, you could fit into one of those stages. So we've kind of aimed the Aging Well Expo at the go-go and the slow go, so that people can start to prepare now for what's coming. You've probably heard a lot of older people say, "Oh, I think that my friends and we should all buy some property and build 6 houses with a communal kitchen and hire a PSW to look after us when we need it." Well, people start thinking about that and talking about it too late. Like, you can't suddenly buy property at 75 and think you're going to build and get other people to join you and plan ahead. You need to start looking at co-housing, which is big out west and not as big here, or cooperative housing, or units where you all congregate with friends or make new friends, so that you have that community. You can't just suddenly do something without some planning. And there's the individual planning, which is important, like thinking about where you want to age. Aging in place is a great idea, but housing nowadays is not contributing to finding suitable housing in the neighborhood you want. But it's also the responsibility of the government and social agencies, um, to help that happen. So, so aging, planning, planning for your health, planning for your housing, those are all things that need to start now for anybody, even you, June.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I definitely it's definitely a topic of conversation that has come up because as you older, like I'm only 35, but as I'm getting older, I remember I used to be able to do go up the stairs two at a time, and it was like really easy for me and used to, nowadays I'm going up the stairs one at a time and I'm like, man, I'm so tired. Like what's happening? Like my knee starts to hurt when it's bad weather. Like there's all sorts of things where you start thinking, some things around the house maybe need to start changing, right? Or maybe we need to start planning for it because we're still at an age where we can, like you said, we can build the basement out better. We can do all these kind of changes, as much as we can. But once you get to an age where it becomes much more difficult to, like you said, the slow go or the no go, which I'm very interested in learning or just a little bit more about that. But it's like it is too late, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So
And there's also that fine line as to not changing too soon and not changing too late. And that's very difficult to navigate. Um, and there's an old term called optimization through compensation and environmental press, where you need to be pressed a little bit to keep doing things until you can't. And then you have to adapt. So your stairs are probably the best thing for you right now.
yeah, absolutely.
But at some point they may not be. So
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, and just going back a little bit because you've mentioned a lot of resources and stuff like that that I'd be very interested in learning more about. But even some names of systems that you were kind of talking about that I think a lot of people may not know what they are. So if you can explain those a little more, and I'm specifically talking about the go, the slow go, the no go, and kind of what those mean. And then you also talked about the cooperative housing, or there was another type of housing, and just kind of just
Co-housing.
yeah, just kind of what those terminologies mean, so people can actually understand that a little better.
So co-housing is Golden Girls. Was that what the TV show was, where the
Mhm. Yeah.
3 or 4 women lived together? There are some co-housing organizations where you share accommodation, and it can be everything from sharing an apartment or a house like students do, to sharing a community where you have your own individual unit, like townhouse, but there's expectations within that community that you are part of. Um, co-op, cooper, cooperative housing is slightly different, where the ownership plan is different, and there are some community expectations again. I have never lived in a co-op or a co-housing, so I can't talk about it from personal experience. Um, but it's an idea that's growing with difficulty. But as a lot of things are built out of necessity, and with the housing crunch that's happening, you may see more people trying to purchase or rent places together and cohabitate. And it can work out wonderfully for somebody who needs companionship. But I think there are a lot of concerns because we live in a very independent, isolating society where we want our own privacy. We want to make our own decisions. So I think it's a bit of a mental shift for people to understand cooperation and co-housing and how the sacrifices are worth it for the benefits. There are some co-housing like, there are some companies building and planning some co-housing, but they're struggling. I think Solera is one that tried to build a co-housing property in Orillia. They actually built one in Brecon, and it didn't go well, and so it's now part of the, um, ministry step down and respite housing that Helping Hands, services and staffs. The, there was another co-housing. It's coming. It'll come more and more.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to, I guess, understand a little better because I my thought, because I don't know these terms either, right? So my thought was like, if it had something to do with the fact, like, sort of like you said, that when people are living in one house or one unit, because I know there's a lot of people now that are looking for housing that can accommodate, uh, you know, another person or their parents downstairs or something like that, right? Some form of, so that it's multiple generation housing that is living under one roof type of thing, versus, like you said, it's a separate entity now that you're buying a townhouse, half of it is yours, half of it, and there's like this individual. That's what I was just trying to wonder what the difference kind of was in those terms.
I think there are multiple differences, and what you're talking about are intergenerational family situations, whereas co-housing is total strangers, perhaps, or people who know each other, but it's not that same intergenerational, and the finances don't flow back and forth the way they do in intergenerational financing. This is a business model, but it's a huge social model. Um, there's a co-op, rural co-op housing, not a development, on the Horseshoe Valley Road, where it's the only rural cooperative, I think, in Canada, where the land is cooperatively owned, but people build and their own homes there, build and buy and sell. Um, and the co-op movement is a movement. It's not just a financial thing. You have to believe, like cooperative banking, like Meridian, you have to believe in cooperative movements. And I think we've kind of gotten away from that and we need to get back into it. I don't know much about Mennonites or different groups, but I have a feeling, and some cultures had more of a cooperative mentality than we do. We're very individualistic and we got to get over it.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. So jumping back a little bit to the Aging Well Expo, we kind of talked about who it's kind of for, right? But what is the Aging Well Expo? Or like, what's in it? What's going to happen in it? If you can describe that a little more.
So it's during the day, ten till 3. It's free. You have to register. There's a Lakehead registration site. There's free parking because that's always an issue. Um, we didn't put an age on it, so it's for anybody, but we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just how to manage your diabetes or how to, that it had a more general aging well focus. Our we're also the Age Friendly Orillia is currently looking for people to nominate businesses and organizations in Orillia who are age friendly, and so we're going to, um, congratulate those people by awarding those age-friendly certificates that day. County of Simcoe has been doing this for quite a while, so we didn't invent it, but it's good awareness and promotion of age-friendly and those businesses. Um, we'll welcome everybody in the large, I guess, cafeteria, mezzanine, the common area, where there will be booths set up by services and organizations, I think 18 to 20 booths. So it gives people an opportunity to see what they can join, where they can get services from, who they can volunteer with. And then our first speaker is Andrea Murray, and I don't know if any of your audience knows who Andrea Murray is. She's a comedian, a stand-up comedian. I have known her for 25 years before she even went down the road of being a full-fledged comedian. Um, and she is extremely interested and well-versed in social issues. She's an activist for many causes and issues. So if she's addressing aging, um, it it will be well, um, there won't be that horrible stigma about people getting old, and it will be an uplifting
Absolutely.
whatever. I don't you don't call it a it's not a lecture or presentation, yeah, so Andrea is there as our first big event. We have some, workshops going on, movement, tai chi, yoga, to get people, if they don't know about that type of exercise, they can try it out, they can learn whether it's applicable for them. Um, Free lunch. We have Dr. Kevin Young. He's a geriatrician, and I actually, when I worked, he was the medical advisor to the behavioral program through specialized geriatric services in this LIN. And he now is at Waypoint. Uh, I don't have his accurate title on the top of my head, chief of staff, but he's been a real leader in psychogeriatric, like mental health for older adults. And I also have a personal connection because with my husband's stroke 10 years ago, Dr. Young was the geriatrician in Orillia and looked after my husband and played a key role in advocating for his assessment and rehab. So I really appreciate his, and geriatricians have an holistic view of aging. They they have to be internists first, so they understand medically everything that's going on, but they don't limit it to that. They look at your environment, your relationships, your mental health, and really provide a service that's wonderful, and there aren't enough of them. Dr. Amanda Guardhouse is now the geriatrician that services Orillia area, so plug in for that service, and he will
Yeah.
talk, in a holistic way, and he's a great presenter and a gentle, wonderful man, so he's speaking. And then the last speaker, oh, I heard her on CBC and was just blown away. She works at Dr. Rachel Savage. She works at Women's College and University of Toronto. They have a women's aging lab at Women's College, and her research is on loneliness and isolation, but in a really good way of not dealing with it, but understanding it and being able to adapt and ensure that you don't fall into the traps and that you remain connected. So it's over at 3. I think the speakers are over at 2:30, so there's time to go to the booths, listen to really amazing speakers. We're so fortunate that we can bring those people to Orillia and Lakehead. We're so lucky to have a university that can access the funding and has the venue and the know-how, and they're doing most of the organizing.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
going to be
amazing.
a good day. October the 16th.
Yes, it sounds like there's a lot of great things for people to just go and understand about how to age well. Because I think that's what I kind of I like. I really like the title. I pay attention to those things, but I really like the title, the aging well, right? For people that want to learn how to age well, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great, I guess for me, title. So that's what paints the picture for me. into what it could be. So I think it's amazing. And for people that are interested in helping or joining Age Friendly Orillia, how would they do that? Is there any way to contact you or?
We desperately need new voices on our age-friendly committee, and if we can grow enough, we hope to, instead of having one committee that looks at everything, we're hoping people can have subcommittees dealing just with housing, just with, I mean, we have to interconnect, sort of all the domains so that we can even get more done in Aurelia.
Yeah,
Um, as far as connecting with us, we have a website which has all the information, and if I was smart, I would have had a card here with our phone number, but can you add that after?
yes, I can add it to the show notes and I can add it to the website. But just for people that are listening, because sometimes people listen on their cars or people are listening, while they're exercising or stuff like that. It's good to
Well, they're
sometimes.
welcome to call me anytime, and because I can't imagine there are gonna be thousands of people rushing to become part of the age-friendly committee.
You
So
never
for
know.
the 3 or 4 who call, I can handle it, and that will, and my cell number is 705-309-2618. And we have an age-friendly, Aurelia Facebook site, so people can go on that and message and comment to us
Yeah,
as
and just
well,
search Age
and a
Friendly
website.
Aurelia. Yeah. So what's the website? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think I I just put age-friendly Aurelia and it pops
And it
up,
shows up.
so
There you go. So go to Google and search Age Friendly Aurelia and it should show up.
yeah, and it'll pop up.
Perfect. So is there anything else that you'd like to mention that we haven't yet before we wrap up the episode?
No, this has been a wonderful opportunity, and, you tend, like you say about algorithms, you tend to talk to the people who already are the choir or uh, part of your organization. So it's good practice to speak and hope that the general community is interested, and if they aren't of an age where they feel they want to be involved, they may have parents, siblings, or friends who they feel might want to take advantage of either the expo or seniors at play or many of the services. And older people don't just use services. I mean, we're not just on the receiving end. We contribute a lot. I mean, we're the core, often the core volunteers, care providers, funders for many, many, many organizations. So getting involved is, you're not just sitting there being looked after. It's a two-way. We contribute and support as well as receive support.
Yeah. Well, I know for a fact that, it's a problem in worldwide, but that there are less and less the younger generation, right? There's not enough of them to support the aging population that is climbing up to that older adult stage, right? So it is a big deal to not only understand, right, that there is like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be primarily older adults, like you said, and they're the ones that have to contribute a lot, right, to the country or to the world or however the services and stuff like that to keep them going because the younger population is just not there's not enough, right, kind of moving on up.
But what a business opportunity for anybody who understands aging and what we need, because we do need products, services that suit us.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going is like as well. And on the other side of the coin is understanding that and being able to understand the needs of the older population can create a lot of opportunity, can create a lot of potential value, not just for the older population, but for the younger uh, population that is trying to figure out how do I, climb, and how do I get, how do I start a business, or how do I do anything.
Yeah, no, it's actually not depressing all the time. Every age has its ups and downs, and if you can accept that with each age and stage, you have to adapt a little bit and search out the positives and connect with your peers because they're a huge source of information and support, and and then you can be aging well.
Amazing. Well, Valerie, thank you very much for being on the episode. And I hope to see you on October 16 at the Aging Well Expo.
Perfect. I'll look for you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.